I think I know how the shadow crystals work. But before I get to the fun part, it's probably a good idea to quickly go over what the shadow crystals do, just to make sure that we're all on the same page. So, the shadow crystals are a key item you get for beating the super bosses. When you get all of them, you can give them to Sham to get the pure crystal, to make the twisted sword. That's what they are going to be used for in-game, the reason for being in the game. However, you can also use them on their own in order to get some extra dialogue, which is different depending on where you use it. When you use it in the Dark Worlds, Chris looks through it and is able to see the Light World. But in the Light World, the Shadow Crystal becomes a piece of glass, and when Chris looks through it, when they are alone, they are able to see through their hand. But if Chris is with Susie, then they see Susie glaring at them coldly. So, on to the good part. What do I think the Shadow Crystals do? Well, I believe that both the glass and the Shadow Crystals are doing the same thing. And what I think the Shadow Crystals show you is a reality where you don't exist. I think this idea works perfectly, just as long as you believe Chris is the knight. The reason why we see the Light World when in the Dark World is because Chris is the one who made the Dark Worlds. If Chris didn't exist, then neither would the Dark Worlds. The reason why Chris can see through their arm is because that is a physical representation of Chris not existing. When Chris looks at Susie and sees Susie glare at them coldly, she's not actually looking at Chris at all. She looks like that because if Chris didn't exist, then Susie wouldn't have any friends and would still be mad, sad, and lonely. I also feel like this idea also lines up with how the Shadow Crystals are described in-game. Sham says that the Shadow Crystals are called that because you can only see their shadow, as in the crystals are invisible. They visibly don't exist, but they are still there. You can hold them in your hand and feel them. In the same way, they let you see a reality where you don't exist, while you still exist. They don't actually remove you from reality. And on top of all of this, this is not the first time Toby has covered this idea. Back in Undertale, Goner Kid talks about this exact concept, which then ties everything to Gaster. All of the Goner NPCs in Undertale are connected to Gaster, and the secret bosses, who we get the Shadow Crystals from, are also connected with Gaster. Now, this next part is going to be very speculative, so just keep that in mind. So let's go back to the Pure Crystal. So the question is now, what does the Pure Crystal do? Does it do the same thing as the Shadow Crystals, but more powerful? Or does it do the opposite of what the Shadow Crystals do? And this does matter because we use the Pure Crystal along with the Thorn Ring to make the Twisted Sword. And what the Twisted Sword does is what we really want to figure out. Now, the Twisted Sword gives the trance down effect, implying it does the opposite of what the Thorn Ring does. But how does the Pure Crystal tie into this? Does it tie into it, or does the Pure Crystal affect something else about the sword that we don't know about yet? And on top of this, the Twisted Sword is exclusive to the Snowgrave route, but it's safe to assume that we can get the Pure Crystal on the normal route, which then begs the question, does the Pure Crystal have a second use? Like maybe on a normal run you can use it to make the ultimate armor, or maybe it's just a key item that unlocks something. And the thing is, I don't really have an answer to these questions. Like I have some ideas, but I don't feel confident in any of them. At least not enough to put them in the video. When I started writing this video, I was only thinking about the Shadow Crystals, and I felt confident in what they did and what I had to say about them. But writing this video made me think about the Pure Crystal and the Twisted Sword. And when I got to thinking about it, I realized there might be more to it than what I initially thought of them before I went to make this video. But also that I don't really have an answer for these new questions. I guess you can say I was able to solve Mystery A, but not Mystery B and C. But I really want to know what you guys think about all of this. Even if you don't agree with me about what the Shadow Crystals do, that's fine. I still want to know what you think. Anyway, thanks for watching the video. I got more stuff on the way, so make sure to like and subscribe for more videos. No, really, I will make these faster the more likes and subs I get.